Y'all know what time it is. It's always the same time over here at Work on Your Game University. It is now o'clock. Let me get my comment pinned here, and we're going to get into it as usual, as expected, as promised. Hope everybody's having a great start to your week. What's going on? Jesus is my husband. How are you? How you doing? As y'all are checking in, shout yourselves out in the comments section. Tell me your names and locations so I can identify you by your actual name and not your screen name. As y'all shout yourselves out, as you come into the room, shout yourselves out in the comment section. I'm going to get my comment pinned here so y'all know where the event is. The event that is coming up is my event, Work on Your Game Live. That is going to be 2 weeks from today, May 5th and 6th. It is virtual, so you can consume, you can attend, you can be in the room, and you don't even have to get on the plane. Listen, there's no mask on the plane anymore anyway, but you don't have to pay for a plane ticket. You don't have to get a hotel room or Airbnb. You don't have to worry about any of that. All you got to do is get your ticket to Work on Your Game Live. Christine, what's going on? Good morning to you. As all of y'all come into the room, shout yourselves out, and we're going to get into this in about 30 seconds. I'm going to give a few more people a chance to check in, and if they're late, they late. Y'all know what we say over here at Work on Your Game. Early is on time is late, and late is forgotten. And I don't think anybody wants to live 70, 80, 90 years on this planet to be forgotten. So do not be late when you're in the Work on Your Game world. As y'all checking in, again, shout yourselves out real quick. And we're going to get started in 30 seconds. I'm going to take one more sip of this beverage. This is just water. That's all I drink. And then we're getting straight into it. Spencer Money, what's going on? How are you? Jesus, my husband. Christine, you're right about that, 100%. So, for those of you who are unfamiliar with me, you don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin. I'm a former 9-year pro athlete and author of 31 books. I'm the creator of this whole philosophy, this brand, this framework that is called Work on Your Game. It's all about taking the mental tools to help you succeed in sports, the tools, the attributes, the strategies, the techniques to help you succeed in sports. And I teach professionals, people who want to take their game to the highest level at the professional level, not in sports, but how to apply that at work and in everyday life. We got Shanta generally from Shantae generally. Is generally your last name? Is that what you're saying, generally, or does that mean generally where you're from? But you're from Arizona. Shout out to Arizona. I got some friends out there. Shout out to Arizona. Shout out to the desert. The air is a little bit too dry for me to live out there, but I could visit. So anyway, what we're talking about here today, first of all, let me back up. I'm doing these lives because I got a live event coming up 2 weeks from now. It's called Work on Your Game Live. Day 1, we are covering mindset and strategy. Day 2, it is about application and process. And it is specifically for the entrepreneurs, thought leaders, coaches, speakers, authors, course creators, workshop deliverers. You want to do any of that kind of stuff where you're selling your intellectual property, that event is for you. It's a 2-day event, Thursday, Friday. Of course, it's going to be recorded. So if you miss a day, or you got to take a phone call, or you got to go pick up your kids from school, whatever you miss, you can watch the replay and you can catch everything that you missed. That is, again, workonyourgame.live is where you get your tickets to the event. Shantae is your last name. All right, shout out to Shantae generally. And go give her what's going on. How are you today? Thank you for checking in. So today, what we're going to talk about, I'm going to tell y'all how school actually prepared a bunch of us for failure. And I mean this in a tongue-in-cheek way a little bit, but I also mean it in a serious way. So what I'm going to share here today is not an indictment of anybody who's a school teacher or anybody who is in school right now and you're paying for it. I already indicted school and the American educational system and content on my podcast and in my videos. So if you want to hear me trash the American educational system, go look on YouTube and you can find me doing it. Again, that's tongue-in-cheek, but I am serious. I actually have done that in some of my content in the past. But I will address all questions and comments that are related to the subject at the end of this live here today. So if you got a question or comment, just wait till the end. I'll address everybody's comments and stuff at the end of this. Cam D. Rowitz, what's going on? And all right, so when it comes to the educational system, this is really about the schooling that I received, the schooling that people in my generation received. I don't know exactly what they're doing in schools these days. I'm not a school teacher. I don't have any kids in school, so I don't have anything to tell you about what's happening day to day in school these days versus I'm comparing my educational experience. By the way, I'm from the city of Philadelphia. Of course, I did all the school that everybody does: kindergarten, elementary school, middle school, high school. I went to college at Penn State University, Penn State Altoona. I got my degree from Penn State in business with a focus in management and marketing, even though they taught me nothing about the entrepreneurship that I do to this very day. We're going to get into all of that. And I'm comparing that with what I actually learned in, quote unquote, real life ever since being out of school and playing professional sports and then getting into the entrepreneurship world. So I'm comparing the two and telling you why what I learned in school actually didn't set me on a path of momentum towards what I'm doing now. Actually, I had to undo and unlearn some of the stuff that I learned in school in order to be successful in the entrepreneurship world. Now, as a disclaimer, some of you, depending on the world that you're in and the kind of work that you do, maybe school set you up perfectly. I mean, if you went to school and then you became a school teacher yourself, or you became a factory worker, or you became an employee, a cog in somebody's machine, maybe what you learned in school was perfect for what you're doing right now. But the world that I went into, going into professional sports, marketing myself, getting onto the internet and selling things online and getting into entrepreneurship, nothing that I learned in school set me up for what I ended up creating. And again, it wasn't necessarily school's fault, but I want to make sure y'all understand this, because really this conversation is not really about school. It's really about the things that you need to understand about real life and what's happening, especially if you're an entrepreneur, because I told you that I'm doing these lives for the people who are going to be at my live event, or those of you who are thinking about coming to my live event 2 weeks from now. So this is specifically targeted to people with entrepreneurial mindsets. You don't only have to be an entrepreneur right now, but if you're planning on becoming one, these are things that you need to understand, because entrepreneurial life will smack you upside the head if you show up with some of the strategies and techniques and mindsets that you get taught in the classroom. That's what I want you all to understand. It will smack you upside the head over and over again until you do something about it. So school may have changed since I was in school. Who knows? But there's the basics that I want you to understand we're going to get into today. So let's get into it. And again, I will address all questions and comments at the end when I get through my points. First of all, I got 4 points here. Number one, first of all, the general way that school worked when I was in school, and it could be different now, was that this process was pretty simple. Information was presented to you by the teachers and by your textbooks and the classes. You took notes and all that stuff. The information gets presented. You had to retain the information, and then at some point, or at many points, there would be some kind of test or exam, right? And then you had to prove that you had retained the information. And the better you were at retaining that information and being able to regurgitate it, the higher your grade, and the higher your grades, the better the chance that you got to matriculate to the next level of schooling. And then you did that for 12 years, you graduate high school, you do it for 4 more years, you graduate college, you do it for a few more years after that, then you get all the extra degrees and all that. I wasn't interested in the extra degrees, so I did the 12 years through school, adding kindergarten, that's 13, 4 years of college. So I did this for 17 years. I wasn't interested in doing it anymore. I don't know where everybody else is at. That's the general way that school worked. And people who are really good at doing that, retaining the information and spitting it back out, they got A's and A pluses, and they got all the scholarships and the high marks, and they made the honor rolls and all that stuff. And look, I'm gonna keep it real. I made the honor roll a couple times. In elementary school, I made it a few times. In middle school, I don't think I ever made it, because I was focused on other things. In high school, did I ever make it? I think I might have made it like once or twice in high school. In college, I got the dean's list, right? That's when you have, I think you had to have like a 3.0 or 3.2 or something like that. You made the dean's list. I made the dean's list twice in college, and it was only in 1 year because I had transferred to a new school. I didn't know anybody, so I wasn't really socializing, so I focused on schoolwork. But then when I started meeting people and socializing more, I said forget the dean's list, and I just focused on socializing and playing basketball. That's what I did. I'm not telling you you need to do it. I'm just telling you that's what happened. The point is, there's lists, and you get recognized. You get recognized for your accomplishments if you're really good at retaining and regurgitating information in school. That's the way that it's set up. And if you're not good at it, if you're not good at retaining and regurgitating information in school, what do they do to you? Y'all went to school. What happens if, y'all put this in the comments, what happens when you're in school and you are not good at retaining and regurgitating information? In other words, if you're failing the quizzes, you're failing the tests, you're failing midterms, you're failing the finals, you fail a class, what happens to you? How are you treated in school when you are not good at retaining and regurgitating information? Y'all know what happens. And there's a little bit of lag time between me saying something and y'all being able to comment on it, but I'm pretty sure your response is going to be what I'm about to say. especially in the era that I grew up in, if you were not good at retaining, all right, they looked at you like you were dumb, right? They put you in the dumb classes, right? They put you in the remedial classes. Of course, yes, you got lower grades, but they called your parents to the school. You know, the parents come up there, argue with the teachers. They put you in the dumb class. You had to be in the remedial classes. You got left back. You were old enough to be in second grade, but you had to be in first grade again. You weren't graduating with your class. And y'all know all the stuff that starts to happen. They start to treat you like a lesser individual because you weren't good at following the process that was required to be successful in school. And then you start to feel like a failure. You start to internalize that. And there's all kinds of studies that go on with that about kids who get left back and they don't do as well in school, and how it starts any of you ever heard of the school to prison pipeline? It starts with things like that. I'm not saying that's the thing that is 100% responsible for it, but it's a contributor, because people just feel like they are lesser because they are not succeeding through the process that is the process that everybody is allegedly supposed to go through there. Now, when I was in school, I did well enough, because even though I neglected to seriously apply myself, I had the capacity to know how to get by. And by the time I was in high school, I knew what the deal was. All right, I just needed to do good enough to get like at least a C. I could pass, and I could move on to the next grade. I knew what the deal was. Now, this is the thing that you got to understand, that in school, the best performers are the people who are good at retaining and then regurgitating that information. However, here's the part that they don't tell you in school, and this is the part that you learn in real life, depending on what part of real life you go into. Let's move on to point number 2, because it ties right into point number 1. And we're talking here today, for those of you who came in the middle, telling you how school prepares you for failure, especially those of you who are entrepreneurial minded. And I would suggest everybody be entrepreneurial minded, because at some point everybody's going to need to be an entrepreneur on some level. Do not depend on any organization or entity continuing to give you that check or that direct deposit every 2 weeks. That could change at any given minute. That is the most dangerous position you could be in. It might not feel dangerous when you're getting that check every 2 weeks, but it's dangerous as soon as you're not getting it anymore. Any of you who's ever experienced that knows what I'm talking about. Here's the second point. Here's the however. All right, so I gave you everything in point number 1. Retaining and regurgitating makes you a success in school. However, here's the second point. Here's how it works in real life. See, real life is the exact opposite of how school works. When you're in school and you have to take a test, what does the teacher say when it's time for the test? If everybody knows it's test day, like if there's a test coming up on Wednesday, everybody knows it's a test, we all nervous before the test. Or if the test just pops out of nowhere, or a quiz just pops out of nowhere, what's the first thing the teacher tells you when you sit down in the classroom, or when it's time to hand out the sheet for the test? The first thing the teacher says is what? Put everything away. Put all your books away. Put all your notes away. Nowadays, back then we didn't have phones, but now they got phones. Put your phone away. All the stuff that you could possibly look at for reference to get the information, you had to put all that stuff away. And the only place that you could reference to get information when it was time for the test was your brain, right? Just your memory, whatever you memorized, whatever you knew, that's it. And if you got caught looking at a book or a note, or I guess these days your phone, then that's considered cheating, and then you would be labeled, you would have failed the test because you were looking at information. But think about real life, folks. Think about how it is in real life. Right now, I'm sitting at my desk right now, and if I had a question, let's say I'm trying to get at some shipping, I'm trying to get some rates on shipping some products, or I'm trying to figure out how to run this ad campaign, or I need somebody to do some editing for some videos of mine. Or I need to figure out, I shipped out a package and the customers tell me they didn't get it, and I'm trying to track down where the package is. How do I get the information? What would I do in that situation? I would probably do what? I get on my phone and I start texting people and seeing, yo, what's going on? I'll probably get on my computer and start sending out emails and find out what's happening. I'll probably reach out to my staff and say, I need you to reach this person, you reach that person, you reach that person. I'll call UPS or FedEx and say, hey, where is this package at? Because I'm trying to track it down. I would look at my reference materials and all these books that I got and try to figure out, how do I solve this issue? Here's the thing. In real life, when you have a challenge, the first thing you do is open books, access information, and you are allowed to access whatever information you want to solve your problem. Is that true? In real life, that's what you're allowed to do. If I had a problem right now, I'm allowed to access any information I want to figure it out. Like the last couple places that I've lived, right? These buildings, they'll have these Sometimes it's the dishwasher, sometimes it's a washing machine, and sometimes it's the stove, like the range. It'll be like this new thing, and it'll be something that I ain't never seen before, and we don't know how to work it, and we're looking at the manuals, we're looking online. I'm trying to download the documentation on how to work the stove because we can't turn on the oven, and we're trying to figure out how to work the washing machine. But we're allowed to do what? We're allowed to reference whatever information we want in order to get the answer to the question. That's what you're allowed to do in real life. But think about what happened in school. In school, when they're trying to test how smart you are and how good you are, you're not allowed to access anything. You have to go completely off memory. Real life is the exact opposite. So in school, this is why the people who, if any of you ever read any studies, that sometimes the people who do the best in school and they get straight A's and they're like #1 in their class, they often become usually not failures in life, but usually pretty average, pretty mediocre in real life in the way that they end up performing. And whereas, on the other hand, the people who might be looked at as failures or maybe not that smart or they're pretty mediocre in school, they end up being like the highest, most successful people in quote-unquote real life. Why is this? It's because the format for success in school is you have to go off memory and off memorizing and regurgitating. But in real life, you don't go off memory. You don't have to do anything off memory in real life. If somebody said to me, Dre, what's the title of chapter 7 of one of your books? I don't have to try to memorize it, and I don't fail if I get the answer wrong. All I do is open the book and turn to chapter 7 and find out what it was called. I can look right at the information and give it to you. Whereas in school, if the test says, hey, what was the title of chapter 7? If you can't memorize it and you don't remember, you get that question wrong, and you end up failing the test. So it's the exact opposite formats for what works in school versus what works in real life. So school is preparing you for, all right, memorize stuff and just retain and just know information and you're successful. Real life is, do you know which information to access? You can access whatever you want, but now you got to know which information to access. Because now, here's the caveat to everything that I just said. See, it's not just about not being able to memorize, but at the same time, life is what I call an open book test. I don't know if any of you, when you were in school, you ever had the rare occasion when the teacher said, we're going to have an open book test. What was the open book test in school? It's pretty much like a way, you looked at it like you were cheating, right? It was like a cheat code, because now you don't have to remember anything. All you got to do is you can just use the book and you get answers to all the questions. But here's the part that the teachers didn't tell you. I don't know what the teachers are saying these days, but here's the part they didn't tell you. And here's the part they don't tell you about real life, because real life is an open book test. You can access whatever book you want. You go to whatever website you want. You can call whoever you want. If I got a challenge right now, I can reach anybody in the world that I want to, at least if they'll answer the phone, who will give me information that what I need. So a couple of days ago, I was talking to my man. He was asking me something about NFTs. Joe, you know anything about NFTs? Are you getting into the cryptocurrencies and all that stuff? And I told him I don't really know a ton about it. You know, I invested a little bit in some of it every now and then, but I don't really know anything about it. I couldn't explain it to anybody. But if I wanted to get the information, all I got to do is go find somebody who has it, and they can give me all the information. I can go get a ticket to an event and sit there and take notes. I can go buy a book and just read the book. I can get on YouTube and watch a whole bunch of videos. So here's the challenge. Now I got to know where to look. Now I got to know who do I ask. Now I got to know which information should I take in, because y'all have the internet. How much information is there out there on any given subject? How much information is there on, if I want to learn something about the tax code, how much information is there? If I want to learn about Bitcoin, how many books are there? If I want to learn about how to be more disciplined, how many YouTubers are talking about that? If I want to learn how to do a crossover dribble in basketball, how many Instagram accounts are teaching me how to do a crossover? There's so much information that I can't possibly take all of it in. So now the challenge is not, do you remember the information? That doesn't matter anymore. Challenge is not, can you retain the information? Because there's plenty of it out there. The challenge is, do you know which question to ask? Because in school, the best performers were what? The people who had all the answers. Whoever knew the answers to the questions got A's on the test. Is that correct? And if you got a B, you're pretty good. You got a C, you were average. You got a D or an F, you're in trouble. Right? That was all based on having the right answers. In real life, it doesn't matter if you have the right answers. In real life, the most important thing is, are you asking the right question? See, the game has flipped completely. See, in real life, if I have a challenge, I'm trying to figure out how to work the stove in my new place. I don't know how to work it. Now, the question is not, do I have the answer? Of course I don't have the answer. The question is, do I know what to type into Google so I can get the answer? Because if I type the wrong thing in, I can get access to a bunch of information, but is it going to help me turn on the stove? Is it going to help me cook my dinner? No. So you got to know how to ask the right question these days. That's why I have a book called Ask Yourself a Better Question. The right question is 1,000 times more valuable than the right answer in real life. Whereas in school, the most valuable thing is having the answers. But see, when you have all the answers, you feel like you don't need to learn anything else. This is why people who do really good in school tend to become mediocre in real life, especially in the entrepreneurship world, if they ever step into it. Why? Because in the entrepreneurship world, it's not about having all the answers. Most of the time, we ain't got the answers. That's why we became entrepreneurs. We don't have the answers. If we start something, not even knowing what the hell we're doing, we don't have all the answers. But we get there by asking the right questions. All right, who do I talk to? Who should I ask? How should I get this information? How can I address this problem? What's the best way for me to handle this issue? What would I do to scratch my own itch? And who else has the same problem that I have? These are all questions. But these questions are the key to being successful as an entrepreneur, is asking the right question, not having all the answers. I don't have all the answers, but I know what questions to ask. When I'm working with people as a coach, whether it's a business coaching, whether I'm coaching somebody on their day-to-day life stuff, whether it's strategy, accountability, execution, mindset, it's not about me. It's not about you getting on a phone with me or a Zoom call with me and you tell me all your problems, and every problem you got, I just spit out an answer. All right, do this, do this, do this, do this. And then in 5 minutes, I done solved your whole life. That's not the way it works. It's about me asking you the right questions that are going to be insights that lead you to thinking a different way. Because if all I'm doing is just giving you answers, then I'm not really helping you, because now you're going to always need me. The key is for me to give you the right questions so you can start asking yourself the same things. Now they're going to give you insights. It's going to change the way that you think. It's going to change the structure of the way that you think. And that's going to lead to the breakthroughs. This is what entrepreneurship is about. It's asking the right questions. School teaches you to have all the answers. And this is why school prepares you for failure. Because they're trying to teach you to make sure you can answer everything. You don't need all the answers in real life. All right, that's why we have DuckDuckGo. You got Google. You got Bing. They got all the answers. All right, you don't need to do that anymore. So again, I don't know what they teach in school these days, but having the answers doesn't really matter. All right, you need insights. That's the key thing you need. In episode 1177 of my podcast, I talked about asking the right questions through insights. So any of you didn't know I had a podcast. It's called Work on Your Game. If you couldn't guess, look it up on your favorite app. Now, third point is this. We are talking today about how school prepares you for failure in a tongue-in-cheek way, but in a serious way. When you were in school, I'm talking about school years, let's say up through high school. So you were a child. All right? So I'm assuming you had some responsible adult raising you at home, whoever that was. Your teachers and your parents back then, they dictated to you. All right, they told you what it was. This is why it is, and that's it. And don't ask me again. There are no more questions. You were not challenged to acquire your own information or your own opinions when you were a child. And maybe some of you are still children who are listening to this. And some of you who are parents, hey, take this as a challenge. As a child, you were not challenged to go get your own information. You asked your parent, you asked your teacher, they gave you an answer, not a question, but an answer, and they just told you that. That's what it is. And they didn't even have to be right, but you had to accept it because it had authority, right? And you were supposed to listen to them. Again, depending on how you were raised. You were supposed to listen to them, and that was pretty much it. And you were told that information, and you had to retain that information in school in order to pass the class, internalize that information, and move to the next grade. Luckily, for somebody like me, and maybe people like you, I was introduced to reading at a very young age. My mom comes from an education background, so she had me reading before I even started school. So I've always been into books. That's why I became an author myself to this very day. And because I got into books, I was able to access my own information. So even if a teacher told me something, or a parent, or some authority figure adult told me something, I could still access books and get other information. So this is how I told you how I went to school for business. I majored in business in college, but they didn't teach me anything about entrepreneurship. But I got into entrepreneurship still because I started reading books on it. I read Think and Grow Rich. I read Robert Kiyosaki. I stumbled into a network marketing meeting when I didn't even know what network marketing was. But in that meeting at that hotel, these guys were talking about entrepreneurship. And I said, man, the stuff they're saying makes sense. Even though I didn't become a network marketer, the stuff they were talking about made so much sense. I'm glad that I went to that meeting because it opened my eyes and showed me there's another way of doing things besides what I see out here. And that was, again, asking the right questions, not having all the answers. They weren't giving me answers. They were just asking me questions like, hey, does this make sense? Does it make sense that there's another way that you can make money besides go to work this many hours every week, get a paycheck until you're 65, you retire, and then that's pretty much it. You see people around you doing that. Do you want to do that? Or do you want to follow a different program that might get you a different result? Notice how that's a question, not an answer? So this is how it starts to open my mind. But you got to be open-minded enough to take in these questions when they get sent to you and not just outright reject them just because your conditioning, what you've been taught up to this point, has given you a different thought process. And this goes back to what I was talking about yesterday when it came to money mindset. You really got to be careful about choosing your sources. Just like I told you yesterday. When you go on Google and you Google something, Google's going to give you 1,000 results. They're going to give you 1,000,000 results. Now, you had to be discerning about which result are you going to pay attention to. You get on YouTube and you type in basketball drills. There's 1,000,000 different dudes doing basketball drills. Which one are you going to listen to? You could listen to all of them, but which one are you going to take in all the information from? See, now this is where your discernment comes in. This is where your decision making has to come in. You got to make the right decision about who you're going to listen to. This is the key to success in quote unquote real life. In school, it's just, all right, whatever the textbook says or whatever the teacher says, as long as you retain and regurgitate that, the teacher's going to give you an A. But then when you get out of school, now the game flips completely. Now you got to know what question to ask, not what answer to give. Now, how do you choose? This is why all of these things that I talk about all the time, asking the right question, the law of association, being around the right people, you become the average of the people you spend the most time with. You become the average of the information you are consuming, the average of the things that you are listening to on a day-to-day basis, the average of the people whose information you are internalizing and accepting. You have to be very, very discerning about who you associate, who and what you associate with. You make bad decisions in this area, it will lead you to failure faster than having a lack of information or a lack of skill. You could be a very unskilled person, but if you associate with the right people, you will lead yourself towards success because what they're doing is going to rub off on you and you will go in the same direction that they're going. You could be a very skilled and talented person with a lot of resources and opportunity. You hang around the wrong people, you're going to go in the wrong direction, even if you have a ton of talent. Any of you ever known somebody who fit that description? A lot of talent, a lot of opportunity, came from a good home, good parents, everything going for them, but because they associated with the wrong people, they ended up going in the wrong direction and wasted all that talent and opportunity. Any of you ever known somebody who fit that description? I guarantee all of you have. And any of you who's just coming in the middle of this, we are talking about how school sets you up for failure. I'm saying this in a tongue-in-cheek type of way, but I'm not joking. And anybody who has a question or a comment, I will address all of them in a second. I'm on the third point. I got 4 points here today. So when I get through these points, I'll address everything, anybody who had a question for me. So like I said, one of the best things that happened for me, it's funny because my mom is in the education world, but at the same time, she taught me how to read. So she drove me towards the education path, but at the same time, empowered me by giving me the ability to read from a very early age, was led to me reading and getting my own information. And then it led to me as an adult. Now I can create my own information. So you see these books behind me. These are my books. To create my own information because I can empower myself. I know how to ask the right questions and show people that asking the right question is more important than having the right answer. This is very, very, very important. And all of you can use this. I don't care how old you are, what you do for a living. Asking the right questions is more important than having the right answers. It provides insight. And this also allows you to understand that when you take in information from anyone, I don't care if it's a teacher, it could be your best friend, it could be your husband or wife, whoever, that there's always more than one way to look at a situation. And a critical thinker is a person who is always looking for, what are the alternative ways of looking at this situation? You don't have to agree or disagree with somebody's point, but just understanding there could be another way of looking at this. Let me see what is it? What's another way of looking at this? If somebody completely disagreed with whatever opinion you got on any subject in life, ask yourself this question. If someone completely disagreed with you and had a completely different point of view, why would they have that point of view? What would the logical explanation be of them having a completely different opinion from you? A critical thinker understands that they all exist, and these people who think completely different from you are not dumb. They're not bad people. They're not stupid. There's nothing wrong with them. They just have a different opinion from you. A critical thinker understands this, and usually people who are critical thinkers are readers. They're people who get information from more than one source. They're people who understand asking the right question is more important than having the right answer. And critical thinkers are not people who are always giving you their opinion. They're usually asking questions. Hey, why is this? How is this? What about this? Has anybody seen this? How does that make sense? Critical thinkers are usually asking questions. They question everything. And I did a 2-part series, episodes 1826, 1827 on my podcast about critical thinking. Again, my podcast is called Working Your Game, for those of you who haven't listened to it. Yeah, my man Russell Martin was good. Thank you for the badge. And we're going to I'm going to address all questions and comments in a second. Let me go through point number 4, and then we'll address questions and comments. So for all the people listening right now who are students, if you are a teacher, and you could be a student in life, you don't have to be a student in school. I'm not in school, and I'm not going back to school. But if you are a student in life, if you are a teacher, here's my call to action. For the students, first of all, ask yourself, how often are the adults around you challenging you to think for yourself and get your own information versus how often they're giving you their information and basically telling you have to accept it. I told you, I don't know what they're doing in schools these days, but I would hope that most teachers, if we got any teachers who are listening to this, or any of you who are parents and you got kids in school, I'm hoping that the teachers are challenging kids to think for themselves these days, because they can go get their own information. They all got phones. So whatever you tell them, they can get on the Google right there 2 minutes later and come up with something that's different from what you just said. So I'm hoping, any of you who's in school right now, I'm hoping when you ask your teacher a question, that instead of them just giving you the answer, they ask you, well, what do you think? What's your research? When you go get your own information, what did you find out? Because you got it right at your fingertips. I mean, we had encyclopedias and we had libraries, but that took a little bit of effort. You don't have to do nothing. All you got to do is get on your phone. In 2 seconds, you got all the information literally at your fingertips all day, every day. And teachers out there, I'm hoping that you, even though you're in a position of authority and the kids have to listen to you, for the most part, generally, you're challenging these kids to think for themselves and get their own information. Trust no one's information but your own. But your information needs to be based on you went and looked at the information and ask yourself, okay, here's what one person says, but who thinks the opposite of this? What do they say? And then you take it enough that you can see what are the commonalities here. Why do they think this way? Why do they think this way? How much of this is opinion? How much of this is fact? How much of this is based on somebody's beliefs? How much of this is based on empirical evidence? And then you make you draw your own conclusion based on your own thinking, probably somewhere in between the two. And it's okay to have beliefs and opinions, but just understand how you came about your beliefs and opinions and make sure they weren't assigned to you by somebody else, that you actually came to them through your own independent thinking. This is just a skill of critical thinking that, unfortunately, I would hope, right, there's a better word, I would hope that we would have more of this these days, because everybody can access whatever information we want. But it's actually getting worse. We're going in the wrong direction simply because people are being more driven by their emotions and putting on a show for their audiences than actually having accurate information that's based on, again, objective facts rather than beliefs and opinions. But that's a whole different conversation for a different day. So this 4th point, the call to action, is accessing your own information. And when someone asks you, you challenge them to get their own information. That's what I'm saying. That's the call to action here for everybody. I don't care what your age is, what you do for a living. How much are your independent ideas tolerated? If you're in school, do you tolerate independent ideas, teachers? Do you tolerate a student in your class having a different opinion from you? Do you tolerate them having a different belief than you? And belief is a little bit deeper than an opinion. Students, if you're in school, do your teachers tolerate you having a different opinion from them? Will they accept it? Are they objective enough to accept it? Because teachers are people just like you. And I mean, y'all see some of the stuff that be on the internet, and these are teachers. They're teaching our kids out here. So y'all see it. This would be a major litmus test, really, for how much things have or have not changed when it comes to education. Now, there are some areas like math, and we could say the law, and I guess we used to say science, but I guess not anymore, that are just hard knowledge, that it just is what it is, and it's not malleable. And yeah, science got thrown out the window. But let's just say math and law, they're still pretty much here for now. I don't know, I think there's some people trying to attack those also, but we can't agree on science anymore. But this is where we're at. So I just want to know, is this being tolerated? And how are we teaching the next generation? How are we even teaching each other? But all of this is to say, I'm going to recap my points here and I'm going to take questions. The topic is how school sets us up for failure, especially if you're going into the entrepreneurial world. Number 1, general way that school worked, at least in my generation, is that you retained information from the book or from class, from the lectures, and then when it was test day, you had to regurgitate it, but you weren't allowed to access anything to regurgitate. You just had to know it. If you didn't memorize the information well enough or know it well enough, quote unquote know it, I forgot everything as soon as I got out of school, but if you didn't memorize it well enough, you failed. And then you had the stigma on you, and they put you in the dumb classes, and you got held back and all that stuff. They called your parents up to the school and all that stuff, and other kids in class will laugh at you because you weren't doing well at following that formula. But point number 2, in real life, is that the way it works? Absolutely not. School was a closed book test. Real life is an open book test, meaning you can access whatever book you want. You can call whoever you want. You can get on whatever website you want and get any information you want anytime you have a problem in real life. Whereas in school, if you access the book, you fail because you were cheating. It was cheating to access a book in school, but to not access a book in real life, you're an idiot. So it's the complete opposite formula in real life versus in school. So school is setting you up for something that real life doesn't even reflect. Again, depending on what part of life you stepped into. Point number 3, your adults around you as a kid, they dictated to you. They told you what the information was and you were supposed to just blindly accept it. But in real life, that's not the way that it works. You shouldn't blindly accept any information from anybody. I don't care if they're your best friend. You should challenge everything. A critical thinker challenges every piece of information that's given to them. And they are always asking why, how, who, what, when, where. Critical thinkers are always questioning. They're always wondering, where did this information come from? And they get their own information. They do not accept anybody else's, even if it's their teacher, even if it's their parent. Now, number 4, for the students and teachers and parents out there listening, call to action. Are you challenging each other to get your own information, or are you just dictating to people what their information needs to be just because you have a position of authority and the opportunity to do so? So all that being said, let me take questions. Whoever has a question or comment, go ahead and post it and I will address it. Right now, I'm just going through the comments. And by the way, everybody, I've been doing these lives since I'm getting ready for my next live event, which is right there at the bottom, that comment, that pinned comment that says workonyourgame.live. That's a 2-day event specifically for the entrepreneurs, thought leaders, intellectual property, salespeople, brand builders, interview building a personal brand. You're doing coaching, speaking, courses, live events, workshops, anything like that. You need to be at my event. Day 1, we're talking mindset and strategy. Day 2 is application and process. This is for all the entrepreneurs who want to build your business and you want to go full time and taking the knowledge out of your head, packaging it up and selling it to people who need it and want it. That is what that event is about. Again, that is 2 weeks from today, May 5th and 6th, 2-day event. It is a virtual event. If you miss a day or you miss an hour because you got to go pick your kids up or somebody knocked at the door, yes, you'll get access to the replays. Of course, everything is replayed. I mean, it's 2022. You know we got all this stuff. So let's see what we got here in the comments section. We got, let's see. Matt Usine, what's going on? Life on EJ says, how do you keep your energy high without taking coffee? Coffee is a drug. Why do I need coffee? How do I keep my energy high without taking coffee? I actually did a post on Instagram about this last summer. So it's 5 things. Let me see if I can remember all 5. Number 1 is get a good amount of sleep every night. Most humans need between 7 and 9 hours a night. Number 2, I drink a lot of water. So I drink 6 liters, at least 6 liters of water every single day. That's number 2. Number 3 is physical flexibility. So like stretching, literal stretching, foam rolling, yoga. I do that every single day. That's number 3. Number 4 is exercise, like physical exercise. So lifting weights. You want to play a sport, you want to do cardio, running, something like that. That's number 4. And number 5 is watching what you put in your body. So that is what you put in your body as far as the food that you eat, not just the water, the stuff you drink, but the food that you eat. And I might have put that in the same category. And the other one was mindset. Mindset is probably one of the biggest ones. So that's meditation, taking in personal development material, and just staying mentally focused. So those are the 5. I actually gave you 6. But I think that exercise, putting the stuff in your body, I combine that with the water. So those 5 things: sleep, flexibility, exercise, diet, and mindset. Meditation. So that's 6. I keep giving you 6, but I think you'll be all right with 6. So no, I don't need coffee. Coffee is not one of the 6. Cam D. Rowett was good. Yeah, high on life. That's a good enough one. Go give her. You got it right. Always Training says school is a business just like religion. It is a business. Napoleon Hill talked about that in his book, Outwitting the Devil. Go give her. You from Philly? Prince Annie Biet. Good evening from Nigeria. What's good? Shout out to everybody in Nigeria. You sent me an email? All right, that's what's up. I will see it later. Poet Elvis Rivas. What's going on? Appreciate you. Life on EJ. Appreciate that. Yeah, shout out to my mom. Yes, you got it right, Matt. Mary said, what's your current business venture now? What I'm doing right now. What you see me doing. Giving people the game. Mindset, strategy, accountability, execution. That is my game. So I used to give it to athletes. Now I give it to professionals in all industries. That's what that's what I'm doing right now. Look at my bio on Instagram. You'll see it right there. I think it's as clear as it gets. Go Giver says, talent becomes untapped potential around the wrong people. That's right. R. Martin, appreciate you for the badge. I am Shonda Lindale. Feelings are not facts. That's right. Facts don't care about your feelings. I just had an episode on my podcast that came out with that exact topic like probably about a week ago. So hopefully you heard it. Matt says, what was that science joke referring to, Jay? The gender benders out there? Well, everything. Well, we stopped listening to, we had arguments about science during the whole virus. Now is the gender thing, and who knows what's coming next. So now we can't just say science is a hard thing that everybody agrees on. We don't agree on science anymore. I think that's a fair statement. Matt says, school is a closed book test. Yes, exactly. Ray the Air says, are you doing these lives often? First time joining in. I will be doing them at least leading up to my next event, which is on May 5th and 6th. At least until then. I might keep going after that, but at least until then I will be doing lives. So you should make sure you're checking for these. Matt says, how does yoga help with energy levels? Well, you should probably Google that, Matt. What was I just talking about? You should probably look that up and see. There are yogis who will give you 20-minute presentations on how yoga helps. But I'd start doing yoga more consistently when I was playing ball because I had some back issues, and I went to a chiropractor that didn't help, and I started doing yoga, and I haven't had a single back issue since. That was like 10 years ago. That's why I kept doing it. But yoga, I don't play basketball anymore, but I still do yoga every single day. But you should look that up and get your own information. Don't take my word for it. K. Maria. That's if not the perfect, I don't know what you're referring to there. Go Give Her says, what do you eat that energizes you? Quality food. I get my meals from, look at my story on Instagram when this is over, and you'll see I get my meals from a meal delivery service down here in South Florida called Health Rush. I eat mostly plant-based. I'm not a strict vegan. Like if I go travel somewhere, I'll eat whatever I want. I eat fries, cheeseburgers, cheesesteak, whatever, chicken, all that stuff. But on a day-to-day basis, my meals are all plant-based meals. So if you look at my story on Instagram, every day when I eat my meals, I post a story about the meal that I'm eating. You see that? Those are all plant-based meals. So I went plant-based almost 10 years ago now. It was 2013 I went plant-based, so I've been plant-based ever since. Plant-based just means you mostly eat vegan, but you're not strict vegan. I'm not a strict vegan, so they call that plant-based. So that's how I eat. And I drink a ton of water. And I take I take protein powder, and that's the only things that I drink is I take a protein shake in the morning and I drink water. I don't drink anything else. I do not drink alcohol. I don't drink soda. I don't drink juice. No Gatorade, Powerade, none of that stuff. No kind of juices. I eat water ice. That's the one thing I will drink that is not water or protein. But really, I guess people will call this highly disciplined. It's normal to me, but I guess people look at it when they hear about it. They're like, damn, how you do all that? Well, same way you do what you do. It's a discipline. It's all habits. Human beings we are creatures of habit. So you get the habit in place, and some habits help, some habits don't. But everything is habit-based. Sunrise to Sunset says, yoga helps with mental clarity, peace in your soul and in your body. There you go, right there. So whoever asked that question about yoga, there's your answer. And I would still suggest you go get more information from multiple sources. So you'll start hearing the same things over and over again. So what Sunrise to Sunset said, you're going to hear things that sound just like that over and over again. But go and verify. I call it trust but verify. My iPhone EJ says, how do you build up your confidence when you're failing at school has made you feel like a failure for so long? Well, I would suggest you read my book on confidence called The Super You, which is, I'll show it to you. Is part of the Booger-proof bundle. Is right here. This is my book on confidence. So when you go get my newest book called The Third Day, this book right here, on the next page we're going to offer you a 4-book bundle called the Booger-proof bundle. That's this book, the Mental Handbook, this book, The Super You, this book, The Mirror of Motivation, and this book, 100 Mental Game Best Practices. Because who reads one book? Nobody reads just one book. So when I tell people to go get their copy of my book, I see some people just get this one book. I'm like, why'd you get one book? You're going to finish this book, now you're going to have nothing to read. So you might as well get a bunch of them. I'm going to offer you like 10 books in this funnel, but you might as well at least get this one. So that's 5 right there. This will at least hold you down for the summer if you read slow. If you read fast, then I got more books. I got 31 books. So I got plenty of reading material for everybody here who, if you like to read, I got plenty of material for you. So Life on EJ, you could do that. I would also suggest you subscribe to my podcast. It's free. It comes out every single day. every day. I do not, no holidays, no vacations. We don't replay episodes. It's a brand new material every single day. It's about 20 minutes a day. It's just me. It's called Work on Your Game, and the show is about exactly what it sounds like, working on your game. So if you're interested in working on your game, EJ, subscribe to my podcast. Look me up, Spotify, Apple, SoundCloud. You know how to find a podcast. Just look it up. Ray the Air says, any tips for planning? Yeah, I got an episode on my podcast about that. What kind of planning you talking about? What are you planning? I mean, you know what planning is, so Ray. So what exactly is your question? Be more specific, but don't be long. Be specific but short at the same time. What do you mean by tips for planning? Since you already know what planning is, I'm just trying to figure out why you need tips for it, since you already know what it is. Always Training says, to move with others to actions, use emotions. What did you mean by that in the daily text? What do you think it means? Always Training. So whenever I send out a text, I got a daily motivation text, by the way. That's something else I do for free for anybody who wants it. If you want to get my daily motivation text, just text me at my number. It is in my bio on IG. Just click that button that says contact or text and just text me right there and you'll be on my daily motivation list. But every once in a while I'll send out a text and somebody will text me back and say, well, what does that mean? And I never tell them what it means. I always respond to them with a question and ask them, what do they think it means? So Always Training. Now, since you asked, what do you think that means? Because I'm not going to just tell you what it means. I want you to think. I want to challenge you to think. Because that's going to make you better. See, it's like they say, if you give a man the fish, you feed him for the day. You teach a man the fish, you feed him for life. So I'd rather you learn through your own thinking than me just answer all your questions. Because tomorrow you might have a different question. I'm not going to be around to answer it. Then what you going to do? So I'd rather empower you by challenging your thinking than just giving you my thinking. Ray says, how do you keep producing results? By posting often great content. How do I do it? Habit. I've been doing it. I started posting content in 2005. I started doing it every day in 2009, and I started doing it like mindset related stuff in 2010, and then I stopped doing basketball stuff around 2015. So in non-basketball material, I've been doing this it's 2022, so that makes 7 years, including this year. That makes 8. So I've been doing this for a minute. It's my gift of life, Ray. I will say, I'm not going to say all of this is just straight up. No, I just developed the ability. I have some talent in this area, but at the same time, I combined it with effort, discipline, skill. It is also combined with talent. Some of this is talent, but a good amount of it is also discipline, process, strategy, all that too. Stuff that anybody can do. Sunrise Sunset said, peace gives you power. That's a fact. I agree. Matt says, bro, it's crazy how much content you make. Great job. Thank you. Appreciate that. A recipe for training, practice, applying. Well, Ray, why do you need a recipe? What are you not doing right now that you want to be doing? That's the question for you. What do you want to do that you are not doing? And then my question to follow up to that question is, why are you not doing it? Because I would bet, Ray, through my experience, Ray, I'm going to bet that your problem has nothing to do with planning. Your problem is probably just discipline and consistency and follow through. And that you are just letting yourself off the hook and not doing the stuff you already know you need to do. Again, nobody here is unfamiliar with the concept of planning. You know what planning is, Ray. So my question is, why are you not doing it? Training, practicing, and applying. You already know what they are. So why are you not doing it? Your challenge is not planning. Your challenge is probably, again, just in my experience of all the averages, is you probably don't have the discipline and consistency to follow through. That's really where you need help. And here's what happens, y'all. And I'm glad, actually, Ray, I'm glad you asked this question. And it's not even to pick on you personally. I don't think people know you here, so I'm not picking on you here. Don't take it personal. But this is what happens with people, is they come with questions like what Ray just said. Dre, how can I get better at X? And it'll be some tangible thing that anybody can do. Like, how do I get better at, going to the gym and working out? How do I get better at blogging? How do I get better at, I want to do a live stream once a week, but I'm not doing it. I want to start my podcast, but I didn't do it. I want to go to the gym 3 times a week, but I just don't go to the gym, Dre. How can I get better at doing it? And how do you answer a question like that? I'm like, when somebody says that to me, there was a woman I know a few years ago, she was like, Dre, because she knows I work out and I'm an athlete and all that. She's like, I want to go to the gym more often. And she lives in a condo, and there's a gym in the building that she can access for free because she lives there. She was like, I want to get better at going to the gym. I said, all right, what time do you want to go to the gym in the day? Because she works. She was like, well, I want to go to the gym before I go to work. So, and I said, all right, well, what's stopping you from doing it? She said, in order for me to go to the gym before I go to work, I got to get up at 5:30 so I can work out, and I got enough time to shower, get dressed, and go to work. And I said, all right, here's what you do. Set your alarm clock for 5:30, and when the alarm goes off, get up, get dressed, and go to the gym. And we were at like lunch when that happened. Everybody laughed. But that's the answer. So that's not her real question, right? Because does she not know that? She knows where the gym is, right? She lives in the building. She already knew that. Her real challenge is she doesn't have the discipline to actually do it. That's people's real challenge, is not how do I do the thing. Everybody knows how to do the thing. Any of you want to go to the gym, everybody knows where the gym is at, right? All right, you know how to buy a membership. Everyone knows how to walk into the building and turn on the treadmill and start running. Everybody knows how to do that. This is not news to anyone. Any of you want to do a live stream, is anybody here that doesn't know how to work Instagram? Y'all all on here. Y'all know how to do it. If you want to start a YouTube channel, you know how to do it. It's very user friendly. All y'all know how to do the stuff. The challenge for many people is they just don't have the discipline to do it. So then they use the excuse of, I don't know how. Now you do know how, you're just not doing it. So people's real challenge is the mindset, and they don't have the mentality to put a foot in their own behinds to make themselves go do something. So what they really need help with is somebody to hold them accountable to make sure they do what they already know how to do. The challenge with that is, when people really think about it, they're like, well, man, I don't need to sign up for a course. I don't need to hire a coach. I don't need to get into a mentorship program. I don't need to get into this group training to be held accountable. All I got to do is just think about it. All I got to do is just tell myself that I need to work on myself harder. I need to think about it more. I need to believe in myself. I need to focus on myself. I need to just be more consistent. I just need to be more disciplined. I just need to be harder on myself. People text me this kind of stuff every single day. They'll tell me the same situation that Ray was laying out. How do I do this? And I say, well, what's stopping you from doing it? And then they'll finally get around to what I just said. I just need to be more consistent. I need to be more disciplined. I need to be more accountable. I got to work harder. All the stuff that they know that they already know. And I say, all right, well, what is your plan for actually doing this accountability? What's your plan for actually being disciplined? And they'll say something like, I just got to focus on myself. I just got to work harder. I just got to believe in myself more. I just got to push myself more. And here's what I say back to them. I say, okay, so you're 27, you're 45, you're 31 years old. You've had this problem for the last 2 years. Before you texted me, you already knew you had this problem. Before you texted me, you already thought about it. Before you texted me, you already been focusing on yourself. Before you text me, you already knew that you need to be more accountable, but you haven't done it before today. So if that's your answer, let me predict your future. You're going to be right back here 2 years from now with the exact same problem. This is why people don't get better in life. What I just laid out. See, they already know what they need to do. They're not doing it. And then when you finally get around to pulling out the real reason why they're not doing it is because they simply aren't willing to put a foot in their own behinds. And here's the thing, folks. This is the reason why coaching exists. This is the reason why we have accountability. This is the reason why trainers have trainers. This is the reason why coaches have coaches. This is the reason why your favorite athlete has a coach and a trainer and a nutritionist. Like, how many people LeBron James got around him? He's the best player in the world. Why he got a trainer, a coach, a nutritionist? He probably got coaches for everything that we don't even know. Why? He's already good. Why does he have those people around him? Because he understands that they can help him do things for himself that he would not be able to push himself to do. That's why he's a professional. This is what professionals do, folks. And this is why the gap between the pros and the amateurs keeps getting bigger. You ever hear that phrase, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer? This is why. Because the people who are rich, whatever that means to you, they understand that they can't just make themselves do things. So they get people around them and systems and mechanisms around them that force them to do what they need to do for themselves. Because they know that as a human, we are inherently, all of us, we are inherently lazy. So we had to put systems in place that make sure we do what we need to do. Whereas the poor, whatever you define as poor, these people, they logically understand what I just explained, but they are not willing to do the stuff. They're not willing to invest in themselves. They say things like, well, I just got to work harder. I got to believe in myself. I got to focus on myself. All these bullshit excuses that people give, and they end up doing absolutely nothing. They keep doing the same stuff they've been doing, and they just start going down this direction, while the rich go in this direction. So that gap y'all keep hearing about between these people and these people, this is the reason why it exists. It has nothing to do with finances. It is reflected in finances, but it's not about finances. This is how it happens. So I'm going to take a sip of water while that one sinks in. So the question for anyone who's listening, who's had these kind of challenges is, what are you willing to do to make the changes that you need to make in your life? Not what are you willing to think about and talk about and post about. What are you actually going to do? Meaning a literal action plan. Things that you're really going to do that are not just about you thinking about it more and believing in yourself and pushing yourself and all the the hype up quotes that you hear on social media. What are you actually going to do? Do you have a plan? Because if you don't, then you need to go get one. And you probably need some help because you've been alive your whole life. So clearly just you doing it by yourself doesn't work. That's not a winning strategy. All right, you've been alive for, how old are you? 25? You 37? All right, you had 37 years to do it by yourself. That doesn't work. So clearly you need some help. And there's nothing wrong with getting help. Smart people get help. All right, the most successful entrepreneurs they got people, they got teams, they got staff. They don't do it by themselves. So this is the backwards thinking that a lot of people have that keep them in a position of failure, basically. Matt says, good stuff today. Appreciate you, Matt. Always Training says, emotions influence decisions. I can use others' emotions to my advantage as an entrepreneur with the correct strategy and tactics. All right, well, there you go. So, I mean, it seems like you pretty much got it. And also, Always Training, anything that I post, if it's not about what I think it means, it's about what you think it means. What I think it means doesn't matter. It's what you think it means that matters, because you're the one who has to live with the thoughts. I could tell you anything. You don't have to accept it. It's what you think that matters the most. So anything that I say, it doesn't have to be, you don't need to know my interpretation of it. You need to know your interpretation of it, because you're the one who has to take that and go live with those thoughts. So it's not about what I think. You should always interpret it as to what you think. Now, if you have a question about your interpretation, then you should ask me that. But don't just ask me what does it mean, because then you're asking me to put thoughts in your head. That ain't going to work. But thank you for asking. It's a good example. You let me use what you said there as an example. All right, so if I could take one or two more questions, go ahead and post it, and then we're gonna wrap this one up. I'm gonna put my text number in the chat here in the comment section. So anybody who wants to get my daily motivation text that I send out every day, this is the number right here. It is 305-384-6894. Every day when I send out my daily motivation, if you want to get it, just text me at that number, and every day when I send daily motivation, you will get it. We got thousands of people in there, so if you want to be one of the thousands who is in my text community, it's completely free. It's just a text message, same way you get text from anybody else. All you gotta do is text me at that number right there. It is also linked in my bio here on IG, and if you're watching this on YouTube, I put all the replays on my lives on YouTube too. So if you're watching this on YouTube, it's down in the description. And by the way, when these lives are over, they go into the tab on Instagram. I think it's they got the pictures tab, they got the feed tab, then is the reel tab, and then is the IG live tab. So these are all in the IG live tab as well. But on YouTube, you can speed it up. YouTube, you can watch it on 2x speed. I don't never watch a YouTube video on 1x speed. I watch everything on 2x. So anyway, I appreciate you, Ray. So everybody, I appreciate y'all's time here today. I'm actually attending a live event here today, but they were talking about some stuff that I already consumed. So now I'm gonna go back to that live event. I'll be doing more lives moving forward. Y'all already follow me on IG. Y'all see this. I do put these on YouTube as well. So if you're not following me on YouTube, look me up. Y'all know how to find me on YouTube. You can find anything on the internet. Y'all know how to do this stuff. Look me up online. My YouTube is, just look up my name, Dre Baldwin. I'm easy to find. I got like 8,000 videos on YouTube. What else? My podcast is called Work on Your Game. And then, oh yeah, my live event, workonyourgame.live. Any of you entrepreneurs, thought leaders, intellectual property salespeople, you are one or you plan on being one, be at my live event. Workonyourgame.live is the link. It is the link in my bio on Instagram. That event is 2 weeks from today. It is a virtual event, so you can take it right from home. All you need is the ticket. You get access to all the replay, all the recordings. So if you miss something, again, you missed the whole day, you missed 5 minutes, you get access to all the replays. Just go to workonyourgame.live and you get access to everything at Work on Your Game Live. And I am teaching 100% of that. If you like this that I'm doing on these lives, just imagine when you come to one of my live events that I actually plan for everything that's being taught. This is mostly just off the top. So if my free stuff is this good, imagine what the paid stuff is like. That's what I tell people all the time. That's my business model right there, everybody. Everybody have a great afternoon. All right, go give her. Glad to see you in the text. That's it. Y'all have a good afternoon. Work on your game. We out of here.